I walked into class feeling the weight of people's eyes on me. They probably already knew that I was Becky's chosen candidate for her new Carnage. It was rather confusing why she had chosen that term instead of pawn. I mean, wasn't she looking for an assistant to be her pawn, essentially? Soldier sounded too formal. As I walked, I overheard a girl say, "She's Freen? I bet she'll last only a month, and then we'll find her lifeless in the East Wing." I rolled my eyes. Were they really whispering? It seemed like they weren't making much of an effort to keep it a secret. What's wrong with people nowadays? "You're late, Billy," our professor greeted me as soon as I entered the room. I couldn't help but wonder what they were teaching here, considering that most of the people in this place seem to be criminals. Did they even teach values? If they did, it would be a total waste. "I know," I replied. I searched for an empty seat, but the only one available was next to Becky. It seemed like no one wanted to sit with her, given her reputation. "Take your seat next to Ms. Armstrong," Billy instructed. "I can't hear you," I responded as I left the room to find another chair. Unfortunately, I couldn't locate one. "Get in here so we can start," he urged, but I just stared at him. Wasn't he the one who had pleaded with me not to get too close to Becky last time? And now he wanted me to sit next to her? Reluctantly, I took a seat beside Becky, and me. I couldn't bring myself to meet her gaze, even though I knew she was watching me throughout the class. The history class turned out to be incredibly dull, but I paid close attention in the hopes of avoiding Becky. Why was she so fixated on me, anyway? "That concludes our lesson. You may leave," Billy said, but I didn't get up. I wanted to talk to him and get some answers. He had mentioned that the school was owned by the Armstrongs and had been around for nearly 60 years. I couldn't help but wonder if the Armstrongs had built it or simply purchased it. The Armstrongs had an infamous reputation because of this school, yet the government turned a blind eye. This world was already falling apart, and I wondered if I could ever find the utopia that Thomas More had written about. "What is it, Freen? Why are you still here?" Billy asked. I turned to look at Becky, and to my surprise, she was still staring at me. Did she not have a stiff neck by now? What was wrong with her? I'd forgotten that she didn't feel pain. "I need to ask you something," I said and stood up. "You can ask me now," he replied. "Not here. Someone might be listening," I replied, rolling my eyes. Becky stood up, patted my shoulder, sending shivers down my spine. She leaned in close and whispered in my ear, "I can hear everything, even if I'm not here." She smirked and waved goodbye. That person. I was tempted to throw my book at her, but Billy stopped me. "What do you want to ask?" he inquired. "I want to learn more about the university," I said and took my seat again. Billy sat in Becky's chair inside. "What exactly do you want to know?" "Who built this institution?" I asked. "Armstrong. In this country, there are 6 leaders who own the states: Armstrong, 𝖗𝖊𝖇𝖊𝖈𝖈𝖆'𝖘, and the others remain unknown, probably because they were women and didn't pass on their surnames to their descendants," Billy explained. "That's a bit off topic. I was asking about the institution, not the origin of the country," I said. "Fine. The Armstrongs are the wealthiest family in this state. They may not rule directly, but they control the government. Anything they do, the government can't oppose. That's why when they established this institution, the government fully supported it," Billy explained as he stood up to get a book. "In essence, they are the government's secret weapon. They say no women should be born under the Armstrong family name. However, in this generation, Robert Armstrong loved his wife so much that when she gave birth to Becky, they didn't kill her. Instead, they gave her full control of this university and supported everything she wanted. In our overpopulated country, the government even granted Becky the power to eliminate anyone within this institution. Strange, isn't it?" He chuckled. "So, in other words, if Becky were to kill someone, the government would turn a blind eye?" I asked. "My family would receive a substantial sum of money, given that I work here. But if you were killed here, no one would know. You'd simply vanish without a trace. If you didn't return to your family after 3 years, they would realize that you had died here, Billy said, looking me in the eye. Now, can I ask you something? You can't, I replied, standing up. Thanks for the information. I'll be back if I get curious again. I waved goodbye to him and walked into the hallway. So, no one could stop Becky? What could I do to survive? I hadn't come here to die, I wanted a life outside this state, away from its patriarchal society. However, if I managed to get out, what would await me? If I could get out at all,